Well, hello and welcome to the Footy Interchange. Adam Papalia, Will Schofield with you for another week looking at all the different angles right across the Australian Football League. Of course, we jump from state to state and we check in with our experts right around the country and talk all the issues. We'll answer some of your questions a little bit later on as well. But Scoey, a very big welcome to you. Been a massive week over here in the West with a couple of games at Optus Stadium, which was good. One thriller, one not so much of a thriller, but it was good to have a double header over here.
Does it feel like we're at the middle part of the year to you?
Absolutely it does.
Like, do we feel way too far away from finals, but we don't like it feels like I'm in the middle of an American sporting season where like there's some games that perhaps don't matter as much as maybe they were at the start of the year. It's sort of just like everyone's kind of there, but not really there.
I reckon it happens every year where the first 10 rounds just fly by and you're like, oh, wow, it's 10 rounds in. And then the middle part of the season just seems to drag for a few weeks. And then you get to about 6-7 weeks to go and it just goes whoosh, straight. And then all of a sudden it's the grand final.
It's because of the consequence of games. Like if you think, let's just say Freo lost that against North, which they quite easily could have.
Yep.
They do it now and it would have been a big deal clearly. But if they do it with 5 weeks out from finals, like everyone sort of knows the calculations. But we're far enough out now that you go, oh, well, it's a game dropped and they'll be able to make it up. Closer it gets, the more significance, I reckon.
Yeah.
Because more context.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the bye rounds as well, it sort of slows everything down because we don't have as many games, probably not as much to talk about. And for me, it just feels like it loses a little bit of momentum through the middle part of the season.
So you're not a fan of the buys?
Not spread out over as many weeks.
Why?
Because I feel like it just does lose a little bit of momentum, and the ladder feels so compromised because you don't know who's had the bye and who's played more games and what it actually truly looks like right now as we wait to see all the other teams have their breaks through this middle part. So I think you don't get that accurate snapshot for a few weeks. And I don't know, I'm starting to come around to just have one weekend off. I'm not sure what we do with that weekend off and how we feel it and what's in between, but just get everyone to the middle point at round 12, 13, somewhere around there. Everyone just downs tools for a week.
Has a break.
And then get back into it. Or that sort of mixed version where you kind of play like we did at opening round this year. You play maybe 2 games, one Friday night, one Saturday night, and there's 2 weeks of buys and that's it. But the majority of teams all play on the 1 week and then you have 4 teams play on the other.
I mean, I'm not against that, but I mean, that goes against the broadcast deal, which we know dictates a lot of things because broadcast equals money.
Yep.
So they'd have to replace the 1 week of nothing with something.
Yep.
They're not just going to go, oh, we'll see you in a fortnight. And when I say they, I mean media and specifically the broadcast partners. They're not going to go, oh, too easy, we just won't do footy this weekend.
Yeah. So you still get the exact same amount of games, but you miss out on a Thursday night, Friday night type thing.
Yeah, well, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's broadcast money. So for that reason, I don't think that happens. I am not as against the buys as you are. It's sort of just I don't think that's why we lose momentum because there's not 9 games in a weekend. In fact, when there's 9 games in a weekend, there's probably 3 that I pay no attention to. So, now when there's 5, 6, 7 games a weekend, I pretty much know what goes on in every one of them. Like when there's 9, you just don't think about 3 of them. So
just go through.
I don't reckon that's the reason we lose momentum.
Well, are we exposed to more of the poor games then through this period? And is that why it's highlighted? Because we've got more standalone fixtures.
No. I don't have a great deal of issue with the AFL season. I've got issues with a lot of things in the AFL, but I like the scheduling and when games are played, and I'm happy with them spread out.
Is there a perfect time to have a bye as a player? So I'm talking from a viewing point of view and, everyone trying to negotiate their fantasy teams through all these 6 weeks of buys, which can be difficult. But for a player, is there an ideal time when you actually want to have a break?
I think, in the middle of the season, yes.
But smack bang in the middle? Because some teams obviously have their bye a little bit earlier. Other teams at the end of this 6-week period have theirs later and
I
then
think
have
it's
a bye closer to finals on the other side.
I think it's too difficult to say, well, week 14's the best. I think as a player, you want it either to stop a run of momentum that's going poorly and you don't want it when Freo had it, basically. Like Freo were hot and then you down tools. That's when you don't want it. But you don't know that until you're in the season. So I always felt like it was a bit of a momentum killer if you were going well, but it was also a bit of a if you weren't going well, you're searching for the bye. So,
are you one of those people that thinks that teams coming off the bye should play against teams coming off a bye?
No. See, I don't buy into any of this, much of this fixturing stuff. Like, I don't have a great deal of an issue with it, as some people do, and probably rightfully so. Keep in mind, I was also 10 years ago when I was on the AFLPA. I was the representative from West Coast. I was pushing hard to get West Coast to play back-to-back in Queensland or Sydney or Melbourne 10 years ago. And almost everyone was like, you can't do that. We can't move the club over there. How are we going to train? Now, it's like, why are we not doing more of it?
Yep.
Like, that was to alleviate the discrepancies in fixture by, yes, you go over for a 9-day period or maybe less, 7-day period, but you get a 4-week block at home. Like, that's what it would have done. I was ahead of the curve on that one, Paps. Everyone was sooking it up, saying, we're going to be away from home for too long.
Yeah.
We're one of the only sporting leagues in the world that cries about being away from. You're an elite athlete.
Yeah.
Like, go and stay in a hotel for 5 nights. You'll be fine.
They should do it more and make it a short trip on the road, but get 2 games out of the way, and then you save yourself a trip later in the year.
Could you play Sunday to Friday? Like, could you do a Sunday night game into a Friday night game, or is that too tight? Or a Sunday game?
5-day breaks through the year, but the teams don't love playing.
So worst case, Sunday to Saturday,
Yep.
or Friday to Saturday.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't work. Saturday to Friday.
Yeah. So the shorter they can do it, absolutely. And if you have a base that you're used to and go to regularly, then I guess you start to feel more comfortable with it when you go there, particularly if you go to Melbourne, where they've been exploring maybe having a set base for interstate teams to go over there.
Honestly, I think it's too precious. You need an oval. You've got a hotel. Well, what do you need? What do you need in a set base?
At each end, bit of grass.
What do you need? You don't need anything. Well, what can you not get interstate? I was like, I'm serious. I'm like this 10 years ago. Like, what do you need? Take your footy gear, get all the equipment over. Yeah, that's a hassle.
Yeah.
Get the AFL to pay for that. And I don't understand what the issue is. Like, every sporting code in the world does this. Imagine if soccer and even NFL, probably America's similar size in terms of cross.
Yep.
Imagine if they didn't do road trips.
Yeah.
Please.
Was it Scott Pendlebury trolled everyone just by coming over to WA on the bye?
Did he?
He did, yeah. He came over here. I thought I read that he was on the same plane as Alistair Clarkson at one point, who went over for the Hall of Fame and then coming back over here. So
classic.
Doesn't travel over here much, and then just during the bye, I'll just jump to Perth.
I saw the stats with Fifey and Pendlebury.
With Dave Mundy as well.
Dave Mundy.
Yeah.
Big discrepancy.
Big difference. I just thought it was quite funny. So you've come over here as well during his bye round. So the travel's not too bad. The last one, and I'd love people in the comments to tell us what they reckon about the bye and how they would like to see it structured. We've seen this Sunday night footy fixture come in a little bit more in recent weeks with we had Carlton and Essendon at the MCG on a Sunday night, of course, obviously going into a public holiday on the Monday, a couple of later games in Perth on a Sunday night. It's a time slot the AFL are keen to explore a little bit further.
Yeah, I guess I probably am not the best person to ask about this because I haven't really been a fan, paying to go to games and taking my family and then school the next day. I've just been either playing or in the media. So what would I really know? Like, from a point of view of watching it, I like Sunday night games being on, but would I go? Probably not. I like watching it on TV though. Mm. You?
Yeah, I like watching it on TV because I watch the footy whenever it's on.
Yeah. So and a Sunday night feels good.
Yeah.
But do they want it in the, markets that they want people to go to the footy, I'm assuming?
Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
So I probably wouldn't go to a Sunday night game.
No, I don't think too many people would unless there's that public holiday the next day. In Perth's a little bit different when, given it's a earlier start time, so sort of 4 o'clock rather than 6 or 7 o'clock.
So why not put it in markets where they're not getting big crowds anyway? Like, play a GWS game on a Sunday night.
Yep, that makes sense.
Rather than MCG blockbuster.
Yep.
Where they're giving up crowd.
I guess I'd probably argue that they want to try and get people to those games, but if you're not anyway, All right, let us know about those two things. Buys and Sunday night footy. Are you a fan of either of those? Drop your comments in YouTube if you're watching along. You can hit us up on social media as well. Also, the Footy Interchange Exchange will be dropping in a couple of days. That's where you can send your questions through each and every week. So make sure you do that, and we will answer them. And if you jump on Patreon, we'll give you first crack at asking, and we'll answer all those questions as a matter of preference as well. But let's get stuck into it. It is the Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange, let's head to Victoria and have a chat to Drew Jones, of course, from Fox Sports, Fox Footy, from GOAT Fantasy as well. I know he's had a busy few weeks as everyone tries to negotiate the buys with their fantasy teams right now. It is not easy at all. We'll talk about that in just a second. Drew, great to chat to you, mate. And the biggest story, I think, in Melbourne the last couple of days, the Western Bulldogs, we've seen Jamarra Ugle-Hagan return.
Yeah, so a couple of months off for Jamarra boys, and he met with the team yesterday morning, spoke to the players. He sort of admitted that he had some regret and some remorse about some of his behaviour over the last few months and probably for the entirety of the season, and back into the pre-season as well. Some of the off-field antics have been less than ideal, as we know, but there certainly has been an appetite from him to increase his professionalism over the last 6 weeks or so. He went to the health retreat to try and get himself back on track, and now a fitness regime of sorts over the last couple of weeks, which has now led back to him being back at the club. Light training session yesterday, and then a full session today, which he was at, and from all reports looked quite good on the track today. But it sets up this really interesting situation for the Dogs, where Jamarra is looking to put together, a sort of a 4 to 6 week mini pre-season and then try to be available for the VFL program. And I think Jamarra believes that he's good enough to come back and play a part in the AFL season this year, but whether the Dogs trust him enough to give him that chance, I guess, is the big question.
So what is everyone saying? If it's the big question, what do you think happens? And, can Sam Darcy, Aaron Norton and Jamarra Ugle-Hagan all work in the same forward line would be where I go to.
Yeah, well, I mean, it appears that when Norton and Darcy are together, that's a really well-functioning forward line, with bits and pieces from their medium and smalls. But, I just want to take you back quickly to Jamarra last season. So between rounds 12 and 21, he kicked 22 goals. But here's who he did it against. The Sydney Swans, they played twice in that period. They make a grand final. They played Brisbane, the Premiers. They played Collingwood, last year's Premiers. They played Geelong, the year before that Premiers and prelim finalists. They played Carlton and Port Adelaide. So over that 9-week stretch, he played against the best teams in the business, and he was kicking bags of 3-4 goals consistently over that time. So he wasn't just kicking goals, he was doing it against the good teams, which I think was that next step in Jamarra's development. He's played 67 games across his career, ends up with 43 goals last year. As the season went on towards the finals, that's when the issues started to come to a head off the field, which led to him almost being omitted for that elimination final where he really struggled against Hawthorn. So he's got a lot to offer. He's got a huge amount of talent. We know that. So he'll get a chance to play VFL this season, and then it really is down to Luke Beveridge and the leadership group to decide, do we trust Jamarra enough to bring him in and take that risk with a forward line that's functioning well?
Now, Drew, I wanted to get that serious part out of the way. We do have a special guest to join us in this chat as well. Drew Jones.
Where's this going?
Drew Jones, Adam Papalia, and we are joined by what sounds like the most truthful journalist in the world, David Zeta. How are you, Dave?
How are you there, Drew? You absolute coward. What did you say about me on the podcast last week, please?
Coward.
You went after me on the podcast, and I was told about it via Will during one of your sick days because you had a sniffle, and then you took the day off, but you still had time to record a 30-minute GOAT Fantasy episode, which I found quite amusing. And it was a 30-minute uninterrupted mailbag segment. So
where would you like me to start?
I was told by Will you had a dig at me.
Yeah, so it's customary on Thursdays and Friday nights when we do pre-game coverage for Victorian games that after the game, once someone from the car, most likely a reporter, will go into a bottle and purchase some drinks to have just say, job well done. Yeah. Buyer's choice, of course, as per. And David went into the bottle-o and purchased some beers. And for some reason, he purchased mid-strengths, which, of course, our fearless cameraman, Tony Escott, took a large amount of exception to. So I just wanted to point out the etiquette of purchasing mid-strengths when it hasn't been specifically requested by
Your
the
response,
car.
David Zeta?
So basically, I don't drink beer. I drink spirits normally. Now, I do this as a show of faith to Tony Escott, our cameraman. I buy beers. I just went in there and picked what I could find. I didn't realise it was going to kick up such a stink. And we wouldn't have been in that position, by the way, had you have been here. But you were on a week off, even though you've got about 6 years of paternity leave coming up. Is that right?
Well, I was on I was on my baby moon, which is, of course, the last holiday that you'll ever embark on with your significant other without children getting in the way. So I think that was fair enough that I took the week off. And I gave you the opportunity to shine in my absence, and you fell short of the mark in terms of your journalistic etiquette, which has been obviously an issue for you over the last week.
Oh, very good, Drew. Very good. Well, I've learned from the best, and it's good to be with you and be on this podcast. But, I couldn't. I wanted to go with Drew, but he said I couldn't because he's got the special light there that makes him look nice. I'm just in the recording booth here at the moment.
So while we have you both, I mean, I did want to ask. We just were talking about the Western Bulldogs. When is Marcus Bontempelli signing, Dave? Did you want to update us?
Oh, mate, if I know.
Is that
Apparently.
Is that appropriate?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it absolutely is.
No,
On back
I
chat.
can't. I'm not going near there anymore. There was not. Wasn't the fun. Look at Will. He's loving it.
Jeez, you really caught him on the hop here. He is struggling.
I just wish I'd bought some full strength beers and some popcorn just to sit back and watch you two guys just go at it.
We've got a show to get on with,
Yes.
boys. I did want to just bring Zeets in. Any final words, Zeets, before you clock off, mate, for the day? Or
Not for the day there, Will. I got to produce the show and get some questions ready for. Well, not for you. You're on tomorrow. I got to get some questions ready for Eliza, Reilly, and John Ralph. So, Drew, what have I got? I've got no questions for you. I know you very well. How's Goat Fantasy going? Well,
you don't have to ask
I
questions.
think
We'll do that. I just thought you might have some final words for Drew before
Can we just
leave.
confirm you guys are
just
okay?
cut him off. See you later.
Can we just confirm you guys are okay before we leave?
We've never been better.
I love Drew. He seems a bit upset with me that I've come on here and taken away from his screen time, but hopefully he forgives me later on.
Farewell.
Thanks,
Pack
Zeets.
of mid-strength. All the best.
Thanks,
See you, mate.
Zeets.
Thanks, Zeets.
I think like Zeets probably nicknamed the Dalai Lama now from now on. Like he's just, just holy, it doesn't matter what he does. I'm sorry, I'm bad at my job. You just do that now.
No, it was good. He took some responsibility. He's got a lot of love over the tweet and getting that wrong.
Tell us about fantasy. Or, now Zeets is gone. You can talk about him if you like. Drew, we'll finish off, mate.
No, I don't have any bullets to fire at Zeets. But from a fantasy perspective, really interesting week. So Max Gawn is on a bye, and I think there is some momentum gathering about the possibility of using Max Gawn to make some money if you have the big Melbourne ruckman who's averaging about 120 for the season, having a superb one. You can make about 200 grand trading him out on his bye and bringing Rowan Marshall in. And then I think they're not going to average that far apart for the rest of the season. I can see Zeets in the background is ruining this fantasy spiel. So
He's just giving you the Bailey Smith, Harley Reid treatment.
I was hoping this video was going to go on social media, but now David has ruined the GOAT fantasy part. But anyway, let me sum it up for you quickly. Max Gawn down to Rowan Marshall or Brodie Grundy. That makes you some cash. And then hopefully you can upgrade one of your Brisbane players like a Levi Ashcroft up. And then you're already getting ahead of the game with the bye to come for the Lions next week. So I think it's a way to make a bit of cash this week.
Drew, for what it's worth, number one, it's great content having people flipping the bird in the background, so it'll probably go better than any other video you've done. And number two, I think that sideways Gawning, well, I guess downgrading him, I reckon that's a luxury trade. If you're doing that, you don't have as many issues as I do because I'm in all sorts. I had Sam Walsh, made the move 2 weeks early, copped a couple of hundreds off him, out for 6 weeks. Perfect. So I'm sidewaysing to George Stewart. I think if you're doing that ruck stuff, you must be going very well.
It's probably the opposite end of the spectrum. It's that I have no cash gen on the bench whatsoever, so I'm trying to create something out of nothing. It would allow me to get Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller into my back line. And I think the defenders are so much more reliable than the mids right now. So I think that's a good place to go.
Is everyone trying to get Tom McCarthy in straight away?
No, it's his bye this week.
After
Next
that?
week.
Next week. So not this week, obviously, with them having the week off, but next
If you
week.
want some cash gen,
I
think Zach Johnson's the way to go, even though he's only going to play for 1 week and then he's got the bye, but his break-even's -20. I think he stays in that Essendon team.
Thank you, Drew, and thank you, Zeets. He's out the door, but thanks for playing along, Drew.
All right, boys. Thanks.
Drew Jones there. A bit of fun between the two of them, who are good mates within their own organisation. A little bit of office banter as well, which is brilliant.
Oh, I would like to clip up Zeta going, fucked if I know. That would just go bananas.
That was good of me. We don't see that too often.
I loved it.
Saying that, I actually did get that one wrong.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
I'm just trying to compare it to like footballers or umpires or anyone else involved in the game. Like, why not? Yeah, see you, Drew. As much as I liked it, like, do players come out and say, "Oh, yeah"?
Yeah, you take responsibility if you've made a mistake.
Yeah, I think it's just a human response, isn't it? That's why people liked it.
Yeah. It's been really good. Two very, very good humans. Great to have them as part of the Footy Interchange today. Just with a little bit of laugh. And should we send them some full-strength beer?
Yeah, that'd be good. Send them to shelters.
Or send them some mid-strengths instead, just for a bit of fun.
Yes. We'll get some shelled XPAs over.
We're going to send them some mid-strengths. A very good drop, that. We'll move on. It was great to chat to Drew Jones there as part of the Footy Interchange. Well, let's get into the Footy Interchange injury update. Thanks to Frontrunner Physiotherapy in Osborne Park. Steve Gravina, former physio in the AFL, joins us right now. Steve, I look forward to chatting to you every week, but I've been very much looking forward to chatting to you this week because right off the top, we saw it happen on the weekend live. Oscar Allen went down off the ball, the Eagles co-captain, and everyone was kind of fearing the worst when that happens. Was it a knee? Was it an Achilles? Something like that. And then West Coast dropped a buzzword in the press conference afterwards that it was a plantaris, which had everyone trying to Google things. I saw Scoey and Skeet on the Shelter Footy Cast trying to look through things.
How do we go?
Terribly. They're like, oh, yeah, I think it's a foot, and then it was a calf, and then it was a back of the knee, and then we just about had the whole leg diagnosed. Steve Gravina, you are the expert. Can you please clear us up what this injury actually is and what it means?
Yeah, okay, yeah, you don't see it too often. So if it is in fact the plantaris muscle that's been injured, you don't see that in everyone. So it's one of the type of muscles that we're starting to evolve out of, and not everyone's got one.
Really?
Yeah, so there's a few. There's one in the arm, and then the plantaris muscle. I think 90% of people have it, so not everyone's got one for one. And then it has a few different anatomical abnormalities where it attaches. So sometimes it can blend in and become almost part of the Achilles tendon. It originates from the knee, and then it is a little calf muscle basically, which plays varying roles in different people because it's got different anatomical distributions. So it can rupture, and it happens very rarely, but when it does, it can feel catastrophic because, any kind of tissue that snaps, not too dissimilar from a plantar fascia rupturing, can be really painful and really disabling initially because any tissue's got a lot of nerve endings and it creates a big inflammatory response. So the pain occurs when the tissue ruptures and a big inflammatory response happens and it'll swell up. And it'd put the fear of God into you when you feel something pop like that. So he's gone down, obviously, and struggling to weight bear. The docs would have gone in and had an assessment with him, and they'll have ultrasounds downstairs at Optus to have a bit of a look, which can't tell you everything, but you can have a bit of an idea of the integrity of the Achilles and what's happening around the calf muscle. And I'd imagine the doc would have seen that plantaris muscle would be injured or even absent once it becomes fully ruptured. And that's a really positive outcome compared to some of the bigger catastrophic ones like an Achilles. So when an injury like that happens, although it is a little assistant muscle, it doesn't carry the big weight. So once the inflammation settles down, it can really turn around quite quickly. So again, I haven't heard whether they're talking timelines, but as long as 8 weeks sometimes, but as close as sort of 2 weeks at times as well. I think there was a case in the NBA in the past couple of years where a player got back in 10 days after a plantaris rupture. So it really depends on how quickly the inflammation settles, and they're just monitoring that day by day and how quickly Oscar can return to function. But yeah, it's a weird one. Can be quite quick turnaround if the inflammation continues and he's quite sore and disabled from it, and the actual plantaris muscle played a bit of a bigger role than what otherwise it normally might. Then it can be a little bit longer, but hopefully not a season ender for him.
Well, who needs Mark Reddings and Will Schofield when you've got Steve Gravina? I'll tell you what, that's the best explanation I've ever heard.
You're going to be a bit unlucky if it's a muscle that not everybody has.
A bit stiff, I would have
evolved out of.
I thought I've been a bit stiff, it's not even a muscle exists, probably in me and Skeeter. But okay, that's good. Great explanation, Stevie. What about Jack Payne, mate? He's a favourite of ours at BackChat, doing quite well on the Jack Buckley medal. As one of the best defenders in the league. He looks to have ruptured his patella tendon, which, from my very limited medical knowledge, sounds bad.
Yeah, this is a different story than Oscar, unfortunately. So your patella tendon is the anchor point for your quad mechanism, and that supports your knee. So when that ruptures, and it always will rupture sort of on impact when you're landing, that will require surgery and a reconstruction to repair that tendon. It's 6 to 9 to 12 months, depending on how it responds. And given, Jack's an aerial athlete in the volume of jumping and force that are going through that knee, given the size and weight of these sort of key position players, likelihood it's, 9 to 12 months. So the start of next year would be best case scenario, but I'd imagine a mid-season return. So he'll have an operation this week or next, and then go through a very slow early rehab phase where they'll keep him in a brace and gradually build up his loading, and then get him back into some strength work and building some running and a bit of pre-season, but yeah, not full pre-season, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a really tough one for Jack Payne and for Brisbane as well. The Blues picked up a heap of injuries across the weekend over here as well. Sam de Koning's another one to talk about with the AC. John, I also just want to touch on Alex Pearce. Fremantle ruling him out again for yet another week with a hot spot in his shin. How do clubs go about managing these, and what do they need to tick off for him to get back to playing? Because at the moment he's still not doing drills, and it's been almost a month now. Yeah,
it's a tough one. Bone stress injuries occur on a bit of a continuum, so from a healthy bone all the way through to a full fracture. So when we talk about hot spot, that's usually somewhere in the middle. So a stress reaction will have a varying degree of severity. And so if it's a 4-week managing kind of condition where initially they hoped it would be a bit less, then they've obviously had to deload him for a period of time and then start to reload him. But if he's been delayed, I'd imagine that would mean that as Alex started to get back into some of the loading program with the rehab protocol, it's been a bit sore. So it becomes a week-by-week proposition. You can't exactly just jump on a scan and go, yeah, it's healed, because that bone stress will be there for even weeks after Alex hopefully returns. So you're really waiting on those sort of clinical symptoms, how sore it is to poke it and press it, how sore it is to jump and run, and then how it pulls up from the sessions. So yeah, if he's still sore, you just got to give it more time. Unfortunately, there's no magic fix with bone healing at the moment.
The one I had bone healing. So Jaden, our producer, said, "What's a hot spot?" And you and I have probably heard it enough to know what it is, but it gets thrown around a lot. Like Sam Walsh is out with a hot spot. What is it? What is it? Can you just explain it in layman's terms to people who what is going on there?
Yeah, so it's a degree of bone failure. Not to the extent of a fracture, but what we call bone marrow edema, or some bruising appears on a scan around the bone. So every time we load a bone through walking, running, jumping, standing, you're exposing the bone to some stress. There's some cells which heal the bone. There's cells which break the bone down. We need a balance of breakdown and healing and stimulus to make the bone stronger. The bone shows signs of failure when it can't keep up with the demand that's being placed on it. And so when the loading becomes too much and the body's not recovering, the bone starts to show signs of early failure. And that's where the bone marrow edema or bruising appears on the bone, and that's the hot spot. Now, that doesn't always mean it's painful, but it's an early warning sign. A lot of the time, though, you're only looking at it when it becomes painful, and so you generally will see the bone marrow edema present on that bone, and that takes time to heal, and it takes a period of unloading.
And is it my understanding correct that the hot spot is sort of like a nickname because it glows bright white on the scan. Like is that right?
Yeah. So there's imaging on an MRI, particularly where you've got a grey looking bone and then a really white looking area of bone marrow edema or bleeding in the area, and the blood will sort of shine white, and that's why they call it a hot spot there.
Just like on the cricket coverage.
Exactly right.
Edge.
Exactly right.
Call behind. You're out for a week.
Perhaps you're on today. Tell you what.
Thanks.
Very good.
Thanks, Scully. Thanks, Steve. Great, mate, as always. Really in-depth and explaining it to us in simple terms so we can understand exactly what's going on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Hopefully Jaden looks after his ankle as well.
Well done.
Thanks, Steve.
Correct.
Steve Green, their front-runner physiotherapy with our injury update. The Footy Interchange, let's look at the West and have a chat to Eliza Reilly, of course, from Code Sports, who joins us with all the latest out of Western Australia. We just had a chat, Eliza, to Steve Gravina, talking through the plantaris issue for Oscar Allen, explained it, I think, a lot clearer than what most people have done so far. So it could be anywhere up to sort of 8 weeks, but could be considerably less around there. But I know you've been talking about this, Eliza, the wider discussion about whether he should play, even if he is fit for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's a really interesting discussion, and I'm not the first to sort of speak about it. It's been a hot topic in the footy world ever since he came off the field limping in that last quarter. But you feel like with what's on the line for West Coast in terms of their rebuild and the potential compensation pick from Brisbane or Hawthorn that could be incoming at the end of the season, I think it's been widely sort of spoken about that Oscar Allen shouldn't play for West Coast again if his value is at risk of decreasing with any further setbacks or injuries late in the year. And for someone who's co-captain of the club, that seems like a bizarre statement. And I'm sure Oscar personally would love to be out there helping the team and trying to get a few more wins on the board in the back half of the season. But if he's on his way to another club, as is widely sort of suspected at the end of the season, you don't want to be risking the potential compensation that could come the Eagles' way. And given the deals that the other clubs are willing to put at his feet, that would net West Coast a top 5 pick currently. So it is going to be a really interesting end of the season and whether he does suit up again for the Eagles. But I'll tell you what, I didn't even know what a plantaris was before Andrew McCalder mentioned it in his post-match press conference.
Well, some people don't even have it. So, I'm not surprised at that either, Eliza. So, for what it's worth, I think if that's the case, it sounds like Oscar Allen may want to stay, but the offer isn't there. West Coast should come out and say it if they're going to arrest him and they're not going to play him. Otherwise, play your best players. Alex Pearce, this has been an interesting one. I had a bit of a chuckle, not so much at his expense, but at the tribunal's expense, given he was given 3 weeks. He is going to be out again, which will be his 3rd game, but 4th week missed. Thursday night footy this week for Freo. Not on the injury side, but from a performance side, he's pretty dearly missed at the moment at Freo.
Yeah, exactly. Their backline looked a little bit shaky on the weekend against North Melbourne when Nick Larkey got going and almost dragged the Kangaroos over the line in that last quarter. But it is a funny one. Definitely agree that it's quite ironic that he will end up missing the 3 weeks, which was the original tribunal's decision. But it's just been too short of a turnaround, especially with that Thursday night game this week. He has, according to Fremantle coach Justin Longmire, recovered from this hotspot in his sort of shin, but it's just that training load element to it that they haven't been able to build him up yet to the point where they're comfortable he'll get through a full game. And that puts another big challenge in the lap of Josh Draper, who's obviously been the one they've fallen back on in his absence in recent years, and coming up against the Essendon on Thursday night. I mean, the Bombers are in pretty poor shape injury-wise themselves, but they do still have a couple of key threats up forward that the Dockers will certainly want to put a stop to if they are to win this game and keep the momentum rolling.
And the other one to chat, Eliza, it was amazing scenes, really. Tom McCarthy, first Eagle to get over 30 touches this year in his first game coming in as a mid-season draftee.
Yeah, when you said that on the commentary, perhaps on the weekend, I didn't believe you, and I started looking through all the Eagles' previous games, thinking surely someone has notched 30 touches already this year, but they haven't. And someone who's literally been plucked out of the mid-season draft, was playing amateur footy a couple of years ago, has come in and won a whole heap of footy. And I think that the world is his oyster. He's shown so much potential already and gave the Eagles so much sort of drive and dash at half back, which they've been sorely missing. That he took the game on and sort of wasn't afraid to take meters and get the Eagles going back the other way and rebounding. So he's a really exciting talent. He looks like he's slotted really well into that system, and it probably speaks a bit to what McQualter hopes to do with the list and putting his sort of personal flair and touch on it going forward with these sort of dashing, rebounding players. But he certainly didn't look out of place at AFL level, and he's someone who's going to be an exciting addition for the rest of the year if early signs are anything to go by.
Glad I could sneak a stat past you as well. Eliza, thank you very much. We'll chat to you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Eliza Reilly there from Code Sports. So, Scully, on the Oscar Allen stuff, you think he should play the rest of the year if fit?
I think West Coast should come out and make a statement about it, if whatever they're deciding to do. If it's a 2-week injury, you play your best players. Like, the stuff around, well, you don't play him because he could get injured. That's any player in the AFL. This is a physical, injury-prone game. So, we don't see any other player just getting, they're going to trade him at the end of the year. Well, we're just not going to play him. I don't think you can do that unless you want to come out and say that's what you're doing.
It's a big carrot at the end that obviously some people think it's worth West Coast not playing him. But for one, I've been on the record, I think they should be keeping him next year as well.
Correct.
So they should be playing him this year and signing him back up again because with West Coast where they're at right now, that type of player with that leadership would be beneficial to their squad.
I bet Andrew McQualter wants him at the club.
Yeah.
I bet probably everyone wants him in the club. So it's a decision that the club has to make if, in fact, it is one that's sort of on the table, and it sounds like it is. It sounds like their offer doesn't match others. It'd be someone that I'd be signing away, but I've beat my drum about that enough.
You are listening to the Footy Interchange. That was Eliza Reilly with the latest out of the West. Well, let's head up to sunny Queensland and check in with Tom Rockliff, of course, 200 gamer in the AFL. Rockliff Finance for all your finance needs. Great to have him on the Footy Interchange, as always. Tommy, great to chat to you, mate. The Brisbane Lions, it's been a similar theme every week, yet they've been winning despite playing poorly, and now potentially results starting to change a little bit. It was a bit of a shock against the Giants.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, they lost Jack Payne early in that contest, so you can make excuses for that. But they'll be bitterly disappointed with how that game panned out. And I think I mentioned it last week how important that game was against the Giants heading towards the bye. You don't want to go into the bye with 3 losses, which potentially may happen now with Geelong on Friday night. They've been in scintillating form as well. So a massive ask for the Lions, but they'll be so disappointed with how they defended first and foremost. It comes a little bit off the way they shifted the footy so aggressive in their back half and turned it over and then just couldn't defend the Giants on the transition. 9 goals from your back half is almost unheard of when the Giants the week before against Port Adelaide got 0 goals from the back half, couldn't transition the footy at all. So made Brisbane's defence look second rate there, and to have a game where you only have 28 tackles in the entirety. I mean, I used to have 28 tackles in a game, let alone the whole team only have 28. It is quite incredible. So they'll be disappointed. They'll go to work on it this week. Massive challenge to go down there. They haven't won in Geelong since 2003. So a massive ask to go down there and get the job done. But yes, there's alarm bells everywhere at the moment for the Brisbane Lions.
Have you got the invite down yet, or have you put your services forward just to go down there for some tackling coaching?
Might have to. The shoulder's not quite as strong as what it used to be, so I don't think I'll be. I'm sure they'll work it out. But I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago as well, at the selection around Chris Fagan and how loyal he is to his players. I wonder how long that's going to last. Now we've seen Lohman start as sub. He's had a few injury concerns. The big one's still Charlie Cameron. Halfway through the third quarter, he'd only touched it 1 time. So whether they go in unchanged or there'll be a couple of forced changes, obviously with Payne going out. But yeah, interesting times at the Lions, and it'll be a real test of Chris Fagan and his coaching group how loyal they stand.
Well, I was just sort of reading their form and looking past results. You were on this about 4 weeks ago, mate. So they've drawn against North. They lost to Melbourne at the Gabba. You then called for some selection changes, and they beat Hawthorn by 5 goals, and you were spewing because they probably should have got done there. They then just beat Essendon at the Gabba, if you remember that game, it was a sort of an arm wrestle with Essendon, who just got done by 100 by Geelong. They then lose to Adelaide. They lose to GWS. And as you said, they're playing Geelong in Geelong. You were on it. I just think you got bamboozled a little bit by the Hawthorn defeat. But do you think they're going to swing the axe, or it just feels like they're nowhere? Like those results say they're nowhere.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Scully. I think you need to make some sort of statement to kick the playing group into gear. And I touched on it that you played in the premiership, and they can be hard to get up for the year after. And how do you keep the guys motivated after they've been to the top of the mountain? And this might be a good opportunity. And selection's one lever you can pull, I think. And if you drop a big name like a Charlie Cameron, I think it puts the rest of the group on notice heading towards the bye. And we're seeing the Crows do it last year in round 23 with Reilly, or the last round of the season, and they're sort of getting the benefits from that now. Reilly's having a really good season, and they're playing some good footy. So I would be tempted to make that. I would have done it a couple of weeks ago, as I said. He stuck fat. They got the result against Hawthorn, but not the great results since then.
So we've got, is it the Inception Cup? What is it? The additional Expansion Cup, Gold Coast, GWS, Gold Coast off the back of their bye. Is there any genuine rivalry here between Gold Coast and GWS? I feel like there sort of is, but maybe I'm missing the mark.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit. I mean, they're both AFL's babies, aren't they? So what did Rossi call them a few weeks ago?
Nepo babies.
Nepo babies. So the Nepo Cup, it might be this weekend. Looking forward to that one. I mean, the Giants were really good against the Lions. They were accurate in front of goal. But Gold Coast, we spoke about it last week. They were sort of limping to the bye. They've been on the road for a long period of time. They travelled down to Sydney now this weekend. Gives them a good opportunity to reset. They've got to be up and about for this game. And this is one that they can sort of almost cement themselves in that top four now with Brisbane on the slide. They've only played the 12 games so far this season. We know they've got the make-up game to come. This is potentially a chance for them to elevate them and set themselves from that pack just below the top 2 or 3 teams in the competition. So good challenge for them. There's a bit of noise around Big Benny King as well, whether he is to go home or stay up here. They've got to stop it at some point at Gold Coast. They can't allow these talented players to continue to leave. You look at Tom Lynch, Stephen May, Prestia, really good senior players that they've developed over a period of time. You can't continue to let them go for the trade period. So it's not necessarily this week, but we heard that Collingwood are going after King. They've got to somehow find a way to keep him and Reilly around this footy club, because I don't think even if you got offered 3 first rounders, you wouldn't take it. They've got a good enough young talent coming through. You want to keep your established stars. So massive back half of the season for the Gold Coast Suns, and what better way to start it than a road win against the Giants.
Brilliant stuff. Tom, great to chat to you. Yeah, all eyes on the Expansion Cup this weekend. A bit of breaking news just coming through that the best on ground is going to be called the Academy Award. So that's going to be coming through this weekend. It'll be a good one to give out. Thanks for your time, mate.
Good on you, gents.
Thank you.
Did you just come up with that?
I did just. Happy with that one.
Rocky gave you more than that deserved, to be honest.
Oh, come on.
That was pretty good.
The academies.
Oh, no, I get
Nepo
it.
babies.
Oh, I get it.
Do I have to explain it?
I get it.
Thought that was pretty good.
It wasn't that I didn't get
You can
it.
clip that one up.
Yes.
The Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange as we head to New South Wales. I don't think he's on a bus this week, Cal Sinclair, but it's great to have a chat to him to talk all things New South Wales footy. Cal, great to chat to you, mate. The Giants, massive win and a real breakout game for Aaron Cadman.
Absolutely, and I think the question that the competition is asking is, has this guy arrived? He has shown glimpses, but that performance on the weekend, particularly that mark there on the half-forward flank, was contender for mark of the year. But 5 goals from a youngster, I think key forwards take a fair bit of time to, I guess, grow their confidence within the game and adapt to playing against men. So, look, he's had his stints of the VFL. He's had his stints of, I guess, poor form, but I think this will propel his confidence, because I think that's exactly what I think the Giants need. They do need a key forward to, I guess, take control of that forward line. And, it looks like he's the guy. And I'm sure his share price at contract time's now gone through the roof.
I think Jesse Hogan would say, what about me? Did win the Coleman last year. What about the Swans, Sinker? They're coming off the bye, traditionally quite poor off that against a Port Adelaide side that's found a bit of form in, Ken Hinkley's last year.
They are certainly poor starters from a bye, and that's been historical since the time I was there, which probably won't mean much to your listeners. But in saying that, they have been poor starters throughout the entire year, so history would suggest that they're probably going to struggle this week. But I think Port Adelaide's form, they're making a run for that to secure themselves in that top 8. You'd probably argue their form this year has been similar to the, inconsistencies of the Swans, but I think their performance on the weekend was outstanding, and I think the Swans might struggle there at Adelaide Oval.
Hey, Sinker, we've copped you from the bus last week. We've seen you dressed as a aeroplane pilot, in different areas. I just feel like you're one of the hardest working men in football. And given how you're dressed today and how you're presenting, are you going to put your name forward for the next Swan CEO? Because the search has begun, and I'm wondering if you'll put your name forward.
3 words, Scully: cost of living. Of course I am, mate. Well, it's a massive out for the. It's a massive. I know Tom's obviously got his duties up until the end of the seasons, but he's going to be a very tough, individual to replace. The profile that he has in the game and what he's done for New South Wales footy. But mate, during his time at the Swans as general manager and also CEO, he's built a new facility for the Swans, and I can probably arguably say it's one of probably, or if not the best AFL facility in Australia. He's had 3 grand final appearances, albeit they haven't been successful. But as you, Scully, know, they are hard to get there. And financially, over here, he has got that club operating. It just generates income daily, more so than just what it does game day. So whoever takes that role has got big shoes to fill. But you've got to be in it to win it, Scully. I'll be crafting my resume through ChatGPT this evening, and I'll make sure I have it there on the deadline. So not sure if they advertise AFL CEO roles on LinkedIn, but I'll be having my notifications on, that's for sure.
Well, it might help if you just try to look a bit more like Tom Harley as well. So the glasses and just give it the shave.
He's a very, very handsome man. I can't believe I've just said that on. But he's he's a sharp operator and mate, very good fashion sense for a CEO of an AFL club. I will say that.
Is that right?
Not many of them. Very, very good. very big into Lululemon. He's got he wouldn't be wearing Tara Cash like you, Scully, but
go and find a bus to drive around on, pretend you're at work, mate.
I'll just hey, decent guys, really appreciate it, and hey, go the Giants and go Swans.
Thanks, Cal. Cal Sinclair there with all the latest footy news in Sydney, and perhaps throwing his hat. How would he go as a CEO?
He'd be all right. He's as silly as he sounds sometimes, very smart operator, especially for a ruckman. I don't know if we've seen many rucks that are CEOs. Brendan Gale would go close, but he wasn't. Was he? Yeah. Was he more of a back? I know his brother was.
No, he's a ruck, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So probably Brendan Gale.
Yeah.
Feels like a pretty good one.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Running the show down there in Tassie.
What about McLaughlin? He was tall as.
Very tall.
Maybe he was a ruckman.
Yeah, very tall back in South Australian footy.
Yes.
Potentially. All right, watch this space. Cal Sinclair putting his ticket together to be the chief executive of the Swans, and he started it right here on the Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange, let's head to South Australia. Check in with Sim Thomas Wilson from the Adelaide Advertiser, from Code Sports as well, who joins us now. Sim, we've spoken a lot about Port Adelaide this year, but they've just put a couple of games together.
Yep. No, hey guys. Yeah. 2 wins in a row. Still a heartbeat there, and they've got I think 2 more home games in a row as well. So they're starting to look a little bit better for them at the moment. They've come out of the bye after the mid-season bye and actually found a bit of form. So it's not looking, it's looking a lot better for them than it was. I think I was actually speaking with George today and asked them, what they've done different, what's actually coincided with them getting these 2 wins in a row, and he said getting their pressure and intensity back. But the other thing that's actually a little bit interesting is I think they've gone a little bit away from the handball heavy game that they had at the start of the year into more direct kicking ones. So I think that's a little tactical change that they've made that's reaped some rewards recently.
How's their forward line looking, mate? Because that's probably been an area that they've lost some soldiers in. Todd Marshall not playing. Mitch Georgiades kicked 7 goals. How are you seeing that working?
Yeah, well, it's quite a Georgiades-centric forward line at the moment. The 7 goals, best of his AFL career so far. He actually said his dad, who kicked 8 on debut, sent him a message straight away after the game and said close but no cigar. So you might try and get 8 soon. He left a couple out there, I reckon. But no, I reckon at the moment it's not looking too bad. The only issue's got to be for them is if Georgiades is one of the most targeted players in the competition when inside 50. So teams are going to take notice of this and they're going to try and stop the service getting to him. He's not the tallest guy as well. He's a pretty small key forward. So whether they can keep being so Georgiades heavy, Lukosius is a couple of weeks away, I think, from his back injury. And yeah, against Melbourne, they had played 2 ruckmen. So they're kind of just mixing it around at the moment. A lot might fall down to one, Sam Powell-Pepper, Willie Reilly, or Jason Horne-Francis if they can go forward. So I think it's still one to watch for them at the moment, their forward line.
And the Crows hit the mid-season bye. A little bit of your assessment of them so far. They'll be pretty happy with their work, though. Disappointing to drop that one to Hawthorn after dominating most of the night.
Yeah, that's probably one they let slip. If they got that one, they would have been well and truly happy with where they're sitting, real comfortable, and probably even on track for top 4. Makes it a little more harder now. They do have a good run going for the rest of the season, especially their away games. So. Yeah, I mean, they've answered probably most of the questions we've had about them so far. Probably the final frontier at the moment is can they, win those close games on the road? But I think we've seen enough positive signs and positive steps from them this year to I guess, see that they're going in the right direction.
Brilliant stuff, Sim. Great to chat, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Sim Thomas-Wilson there with everything out of South Australia. Well, it's been great to have your company on the Footy Interchange. Of course, keep an eye out for the question side of this podcast, which will be dropping in the next couple of days. Scully, how can people get involved?
They can go on to backchatpodcast.com.au, sign up as a patron. You get early access to questions, early access to all of our content, especially this show. This is a questions answers segment that we don't really do across any of our other shows. Everyone who's patrons across all other shows gets access to it, but you can do that right here on the Footy Interchange. So just go and click contribute over on our website. You can also get ad-free content, discounts on all our sponsors as well. So if you want that mid-strength beer from Shelter at a discounted price, maybe sign up as a patron.
Send some across to David Zeta and Drew Jones as well. Sco will be working together on the Footy on Friday night, Geelong and Brisbane, which should be a good game on 6PR.
Good game on 6PR. Excited for that.
Certainly will be. Of course, there's a game in Perth on Thursday night. I'll be working on for Fox Footy with Fremantle and Essendon. And
I'll be watching probably
right into the rest of the weekend. You'll be having a very enjoyable night, I reckon, staying out of the rain. You've copped the bad weather the last couple of games.
Yeah, and are we working together for State of Origin tomorrow night?
Yep.
Great.
Yep, we'll be around. It's going to be good.
Excellent.
Keep it busy.
Doesn't sound like you're working.
No, I'm not working, but I'm going along. I got an invite along.
Don't worry. I know how it works. I did chat to Potts in at 6PR. I had some very nice survey results in for 6PR.
That's good.
No invite for Will Schofield into the bloody Chairman's Lounge or whatever it's called. Papalia and Beaumont and Peterson. All right.
See what we can do.
No, I'll find my way in there.
I know you will.
It's not by invite.
You don't need it. So, yeah, we might see Scully at Origin potentially somewhere as we look down on him while sipping some Chardonnay, eating caviar, that type of thing.
That's you. Yeah, no worries.
Let's go have a hot dog and a beer in the stands, and we'll be having a much better time than I will be. But yes, you can check us out, 6PR Footy on Friday night. Would love you to tune in and listen to us call the footy and right across the weekend as well. Send the questions through. This has been the Footy Interchange.